Welcome to the Harmonious Family Life. How to create deep connections, transform your family, and live with confidence and grace. My name is Ulrika Bilby, and my mission is to transform families and help them create a harmonious family where we all can thrive individually and together, using our strengths and unique skills. And today, I'm very excited to be talking to Deborah McNeils. Deborah is a speaker and author, a founder of Brain Insights and Neuronurturing. She has been dedicated creating understanding towards the impact of supporting a child in feeling worthy of love and acceptance. Welcome, Deborah.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be invited to be part of this.
Yes, I'm so grateful that you were here and were able to take out some time and actually come and talk to us today on this very, interesting topic. It's bringing out the best in children with something that you're calling neuronurturing. And that is so exciting. So why don't you tell us a little bit about why you're doing this and what is it?
All right. I love talking about it, so thank you. Yeah, and I love the title of this summit. So Harmonious Life begins with a lot of understanding, doesn't it?
Yes.
So that's what I try to do, is I try to create this understanding of what children need for optimal development. And it started when I was a freshman in college, and I didn't know yet what I wanted to go into. And the thought came to me that all of the adults in children's lives don't know all they could know to help them become all that they have the potential to become. So I thought, when I realized that, I thought, I want to learn all I can to help children become all they have the potential to become. So that was at a time prior to technology being advanced enough to really know what's going on in young children's brains. So everything was based on behavioral studies and theory. So when the brain science came out, I got so excited. I thought, whoa, here we go. Now everyone will know what is best for young children. And I realized that even though the information was out, most people didn't know it. It wasn't being recognized, and people still, it wasn't understood yet. And I think part of the problem is that term brain development. So, it can sound like it's going to be real technical and high level of neuroscience information,
Yes.
or complicated. So I decided, let's share it in ways that are understandable and can be practical and impacted into everyday life. So that's been my mission since 2000, well, prior to 2008, but I started my company in 2008 called Brain Insights to give this information. And then I created that term that you mentioned, neuronurturing, to convey that it isn't, just about brain development, because some people think that brain development only means building intelligence or knowledge acquisition and pushing academics on children as early as possible. So we need to nurture that whole child. And when we have that understanding, that's where that harmony comes in, because the parents understanding what that child needs.
Yeah. Oh, wow, that's beautiful. Yes, because it is like that. We're developed according to, how our brain develops. But we also make that maybe then complicated. We don't know really as parents when those stages are and when we can help them and draw that gold out of them.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Will you tell us a little bit more about how you created a tool around this, how you can
Sure.
as a parent know what to do?
Sure. Yeah. It creates so much more assurance for parents when they have this understanding and that confidence, and it just feels so good. So what I do, as I said, I try to make it simple and understandable. So I do some simulations that help with that. And one of the simulations I do is to talk about how we're born, a baby is born with about 86 billion brain cells. And those 86 billion brain cells need to make connections with one another. And it's the experiences, certainly genetics plays a role, but genetics is like it sets up the blueprint for how a brain could develop, but it's the experiences that impact the way the connections are actually made. So a brain is experience dependent. A baby has to have experiences to grow and develop a brain. It doesn't just magically happen.
Wow.
So the wonderful opportunity is that we get to provide the experiences that science shows us are going to be the most beneficial. So as I said, I try to make it understandable. So I use a simulation to explain this. And so I use these styrofoam balls as representation of 2 of those 86 billion brain cells. And as I said, it's experiences that make those connections. So every time a child is having an experience, connections are being made between these brain cells. And so when you pick up a baby, it's creating a connection. When you talk to that baby, it's making a connection. When you feed that baby, it's making a connection. And you can see as I do this, that each connection or each brain cell can make more than one connection. So the number of connections that a brain can make is limitless. And it's just continuously growing. And the time of the most rapid development is in the preschool years. From birth to age 5 is the most rapid. So 85% of the brain is developing in this way based on the experiences that a child is having.
So then it's really important that we actually experience or show them things so they get to experience a lot in that early years.
Yeah. And the brain is going to adapt to whatever experiences they're having. So it's going to adapt to negative experiences as much as it's going to adapt to positive experiences. It doesn't know, it's just experiences. So that's why I do what I do. Let's talk about and learn what are the most optimal experiences for creating these connections. The good news is the brain is always changing and making new connections throughout our lives. So, so we can make changes later, but the most rapid time of brain development is, as I said, in these early years. So we want to make these connections as positive as possible in the first place. So we don't have to make changes later.
So
it takes more time. Yeah, it takes more time and repetition and consistency and sometimes money to make changes later. So let's just wire the brain as positively as possible in the first place.
Yeah. So that's preventative, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is. Yes.
That was a really good explanation, I think.
Thank you.
Because sometimes we, and it actually is then that sometimes you think that it's, we only have these 5 years. But as you said, the brain develops. So you can keep on rewiring.
Yeah.
But as I understand it, then you say that the first years are the most important years. And you develop very quickly. So you can learn a lot in that younger years.
Yes. And so it's setting up the pathways for later learning. And so when we understand what those best experiences are, we're going to be setting it up for more learning, more connections, more critical thinking. I'll get into that in a minute. But
no, that's good.
There was another point I was going to make. This is happening at a rate of 1 million per second.
Oh, that's quick, hey?
In these early years.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, in the early years, yeah.
So then we get to, so we don't really know then maybe what we have to do with our children, because you think they don't do anything. They just lie there and they, they eat and they sleep and, but we can help them with certain things. So Definitely. Why don't you tell us a little bit? You have cards and things that you then could you explain a little bit about them that you
Sure,
can use?
sure.
It's like a strategy that you then can
Sure.
use as a parent, like, so you know, in this certain age you can do this to help the brain develop.
Exactly. So yes, so the the brain develops. Let me explain something first before I go into the packets that
Oh,
you
who's
mentioned.
that?
This is my assistant. This is Jessica.
Oh,
So
hello,
she goes with
Jessica.
me when I do presentations. And so you mentioned, yeah, having this understanding makes such a difference. So part of what she does in our presentations is we talk about, it starts with the brain stem at the base of the brain. And that's our area that regulates our heart rate, our blood pressure, our breathing, our body temperature, all of those kinds of things that are in place for a full-term baby. And that's the only part of the brain that is fully finished developing. But then it moves up, the brain continues to develop. And so the next area is the area that's responsible for our motor skills and our sleep patterns. So her sleep patterns are going to become more regular as that area of her brain develops. The next, I'm going very quickly through these. The next area is the emotional and main memory area of the brain, which are really closely connected. So emotion and memory are really closely connected. And then the last part of the brain is to develop is called the cortex. And that's considered our thinking part of the brain. So the brain develops from survival focus to more of a success focus in that order. But all of those areas are developing all along the way. And so the last part of the brain to complete development is called the prefrontal cortex, which doesn't complete development until about the age of 25, which a lot of people are surprised to hear and learn about. But in infancy, like you said, you know, they just look like they're just laying there and eating and sleeping and that's it. But the way we respond to them, the way we nurture them is going to contribute to that last part of the brain, that prefrontal cortex. So that's why it's so critical to have this understanding that you were just asking about. So that's why I've created this series of packets. They're designed in this format, so they're real easy for parents to have on hand, flip open, and get ideas and suggestions for doing in everyday life. So they provide an interaction suggestion on the front of the card, and then on the back, it gives the insight as to how that's helping to support that child's brain development. So you're getting what to do and the why to do it, all in a little handy packet that can fit into having a harmonious life, because now you know what your child needs. And so there's one for each age: newborn, love your baby, fun while I'm 1, more to do while I'm 2, play with me while I'm 3, let's learn more while I'm 4, and help me thrive while I'm 5. And then there's one on nature activities because nature is so beneficial for the brain to be in harmony as well.
Yes. No, I love that, because, you know, I remember when my kids were small, and you know the different stages, and they start crawling and walking and start pushing things. And you actually, we talked a little bit earlier on, and you were just saying, you know, that's a card that says in this, you know, can explain what you can do, like put books in a box, they will start pushing it. So it's simple things like that we as parents then can actually know, oh, you know, I can help my child by doing something so simple.
That's right.
Bring the box, don't throw the box out, keep the box, put a book in it, and they can push it. And that will actually help the brain that you just showed us. Yeah.
So you mentioned that a lot of times parents know those ages and stages. I know my child's going to first roll over and then sit up and crawl and walk, but this helps understanding the brain. This helps you understand why it's happening, when it's happening, and what impact it's having by providing those activities or those suggestions for them. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, this is so interesting. And I think also it actually helps us as parents to be more present with our children, because then we will be more aware of the different stages that they're going through, and which also deepens the connection with the child, which
Exactly.
is also a good platform and foundation to stand on.
That's what they need most. They need that connection and that presence. Yeah. And that's why these are designed in the way they are, because they're all ideas that you can do in everyday life. So while you're doing the laundry, here's an activity you can do while you're getting dinner ready, while you're grocery shopping. So it's being present with your child, making those connections you mentioned with your child in your everyday life. So it makes you feel better about getting what you need to get done, but you're also spending that time and that quality interaction with your child in such easy ways.
Yes, that's so good. Before we finish off, I just know that we talked about also, the tantrums that children can have sometime, and you had a little story about, something that I think that we all can relate to, when things are not going the way that the child wants it to go.
Exactly. And this is why this story helps make a point of why it's so helpful to have this understanding. Because so the story is, so you're pouring juice for 2 children, and you pour some juice in the blue cup and you pour some juice in the red cup, and you hand it to the kids, and they're all going, they're all happy and excited about the juice until I wanted the red cup, right?
They get the wrong color.
Yes. They didn't get the color that they wanted, and they have a meltdown. And so we call this out of control behavior, right? That's what it gets termed. And the thing is, it really is out of that child's control, because I mentioned that prefrontal cortex, when that is fully finished developing at about the age of 25, it can take control of those other lower areas of the brain. So that emotional area is all fired up and lit up right now because she's having big emotions. I didn't get what I wanted, right? And so the stress response system, the fight or flight, where the brainstem and that motor portion of the brain are now activated. And she doesn't know how to control these big emotions, because at 2 years old, her prefrontal cortex, the control part of her brain, is not fully mature. So that's why having that understanding makes a difference. And we can use our calm prefrontal cortex
and not go crazy.
Because we understand it's not about us. It's about her immature brain. And we can say, oh, you really wanted that red cup, didn't you? And now you're mad and you're sad. So naming those emotions, showing that empathy, what that's doing is providing that experience. You're using your mature brain of self-regulation, because you calmed yourself down. Oh, she's out of control. We'll take a breath. We be there for that child to co-regulate. When we co-regulate with them, that's giving them the experience of that's going to be wiring that brain to contribute to the development of that prefrontal cortex. So she'll ultimately be able to regulate herself. But what I often tell parents is, what an easy way to do it is, when they're upset, you hand them the phone, right? And get them distracted with that. Well, guess what? You're missing the opportunity of creating those connections that are so needed.
And I think that is, a brilliant way to just finish off, because that's the era that we live in, that we are used to quick fixes, and the children are getting used to on-demand things. But what you said is that, it's so important that we actually are using these opportunities so that they can develop.
Exactly. And a lot of times, well-intentioned parents will, say, oh, you're okay. It's okay to have the red cup. That's ignoring how they're actually feeling. And when I explain this to to adults and say, put it yourself in that position. If you were upset about something and you go to your friend and say, I'm so upset, I'm so mad. And your friend says, oh, you're okay.
Yeah.
Are you calmed down? Do you feel better? No, now you're
You
even
want to be heard.
Yes, exactly. And so that's what we're doing for those young children when we acknowledge how they're feeling and help them through those big emotions.
So good knowledge, really good knowledge that you can just bring with you. So thank you so much for coming here
What a
today.
pleasure.
If people wanted to get in contact with you, how do they get hold of you?
They can go to my website, which is braininsightsonline.com.
And there they will find all the resources that you have and find everything that if they want to find out more about these things.
Exactly. Yes, it's all there. And I have a new digital downloadable guide that is a great accompaniment to these packets that really give a lot of this in-depth information, but in such simple terms. So
yeah,
that's something brand new.
That's super good. Exciting. Really, really good. So bring out the best in your children. That is what our job as parents are. And this is really good help on the way. So thank you so much, Deborah.
Thanks for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to share.
Very good. And thank you everyone for listening. And remember to go into Deborah's website if you want to find out more about her and what she does. Bye.
Bye.